First of all, I want to say to everyone who's on here tonight, regardless of how long your loss has been, and whatever the loss is, whatever the loss is that you're feeling, I'm so sorry for your loss. I am. We are here. We are listening support, and more people are coming. We used to host meetings in a center in Clarksville, Tennessee, and we would have people gathered, and it was wonderful. But when God gave me the vision to take it outside of that community setting, loss really began to grow. And we reached so many people around the world and even out of state and out of country that I had no idea that how far this network would go. So right there, the young lady has, or the man, he has his hand placed on the handle there. And one thing about grief, we're going to get a handle on it tonight, because there are some things that are attached to grief, from sadness to despair to anger to loneliness. But the blessed thing is tonight, you know, we are here tonight and we're going to get a handle on our grief. Well, Miss Treva, I don't know how to get a handle. You don't have to, but I'm going to tell you how to do it. I'm going to tell you, and it's so easy. You're going to say, how? How can I get a handle on it? Because I am dealing with identity loss. Since my loss, I don't know who I am. One person said, I can't go to the mailbox. I have problems. I can't go out in public because of my loss. I'm dealing with depression. I don't bathe myself. I don't dress. These are signs of grief. And I'm speaking to somebody tonight. I want you to know that you are not alone. I do this because how I felt so devastated, guys, that, man, it took a village.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Marcelia?
That's right.
It took a village. I had a therapist, guys. I just have to share my truth in hopes that it will help you to unlock your truth. I had a therapist for over 14 months, like maybe 4 years for just my grief. That's how heavy the grief was, being married 26 years to the same person. And I truly love my husband. I didn't know how I could get over it. I cried 14 months without ever a break. And I'm not comparing. If you cried one day, there's no comparison in loss. It's not, oh, my grief was greater. I don't care if you were married one day. You love who you love. Your loss is your loss. Your pain is your pain. It's personal. It's not a competition. I wish no one in the world had to go through sadness, but that's why we're going to get a handle on grief tonight. So what is your loss? That's the first one, whatever has brought you here tonight. Because God knows what it is anyhow. You could say my divorce brought me here. It doesn't have to be a death. Number 2, if you don't mind, how long has it been? Whether you could have lost yourself. You could have lost, I don't know who I am anymore. Do you know how long it's been? Because you're going to get help for that tonight. If you can answer true, you got to be truthful. Because if you're not truthful, you're going to stay locked up. I'm trying to give you some help tonight. And sometimes it's hard to sit in it because you're like, I don't want to deal with it. One thing about grief, you can go out to the party, you can go to the club, I traveled around the world. But when I came back home to my house, guess who was still in the room waiting for me? I said, you again? You still here? I thought I got rid of you. I didn't shop till I dropped. I done bought all these clothes that I can never wear. And I said, grief is still here. So God said, instead of avoiding and evading, at some point, you got to answer this one question. And the question is, what is your truth, Miss Treva? What's your truth? So I'm asking each one who's here tonight.
So thank you for showing up tonight. You are doing the work. You're doing what's necessary. Give yourself credit and give yourself some grace. I just want to share a little bit about my story and what got me here. And so I'm going to just start from the very beginning. When I was 8 years old, my father passed away. When 8 years later, I was 16 and my mom passed away. So I was a young girl navigating life without either of my parents. I buried a brother. I had a stillbirth baby. I've had a little bit of some losses, but it was in 2020, the year of 2020. Actually, it started the end of 2019. I received news that my son had been killed, but he had not died at that moment. He lived for 7 days. And I want to mention, someone mentioned about, I think it was Sophie mentioned about praying for healing. And I could remember very vividly my pastor coming and laying over the hospital bed and praying. We touched and we agreed and we believed that God would heal my son. And it was 7 days later, we left the hospital kind of believing, waiting on them to call to let us know if my son was brain dead or not at that point. And later that Saturday, it was confirmed that he was indeed brain dead. So that was the most traumatic moment that I had to experience. And what I will say is, it was the very morning that we were preparing to bury my son that I received. The Holy Spirit had awakened me about 2 in the morning and said, "You're going to help other people grieve." And I said, "I'm not doing it." And I pulled the covers back over my head. And it was 3 months later. I had 8 mothers in my living room and talking about grief in 2020. And from there, the ministry of Grieving with Grace was birthed. And so here I am 6 years later, doing what God told me that I would do. So I understand what multiple losses look like and what it feels like. But listen, I am encouraging you to choose grace over grief. Choose grace and let it help you to heal forward. Let it help you to move forward. So my charge to you is to grieve in the moment. And listen, God cannot heal what you're not willing to talk about. If you're not willing to talk about it, God can't heal it. And that's where the healing comes forth. And even through our tears, sometimes you may not be able to talk, but just the tears is a part of the healing. I want you to think about, I want you to feel it. I want you to process it. And then I want you to release it. I want you to feel it,
Okay.
process it,
Process
and
it.
release it. One thing that I want to read from a book, from my book that I have here, one passage, and this will be the last thing that I will share, because you need people. It was during my process that I realized that God's grace had manifested through people that were rooted in Him. I had people so close to me that they did things for me. I didn't have to do it for myself. I had to come to a point to where I had to trust people. I had to be accountable to people. I wanted to be accountable. If I'm laying down in the room for too long, I want you to get me up. I want you to tell me to get up. So I had to be accountable, but I was accountable to people who were rooted in Him. So remember to surround yourself with people who can carry you when you cannot carry yourself. I just want you to know, don't give up, don't stop believing, don't compare your healing time of grief to anyone else's, because no one heals the same way and at the same pace. But one thing is for certain is that God is healing you as long as you allow Him to. It is my prayer that you continue to heal forward in your moment of grief. And take your time, but just don't stay too long. Don't stay too long in the grieving process.